Start recording. Okay. SharkBeret review. I have not looked at these. I have not looked at these. Oh, okay. Okay. Apologies. I have not looked at these replays yet, so if it takes me a bit to like gather my thoughts, apologies. Da, 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 da. Okay. Hmm. Okay. Very first thing. I think my personal opinion is that one of the biggest strengths of Dapple Dualies as a cooler weapon is because of how low of points per special it has. You will almost always get the first cooler, no matter what weapon you're against, unless it's another Dapple Dualies where you can match them. So if I just go here, right? That beacon, I don't know if you need that beacon. That beacon is a classic one that I always put down. But right here, okay, it was so fast, like I got my cooler instantly. But it is okay. So you see how like you're not even halfway to cooler? I just got mine. I just got my cooler. And so I think one of the biggest things you always want to try to do with Dapple Dualies as a cooler weapon is always just focus on getting a cooler out as fast as possible. Any map, any team comp, if you're playing VDapples, just get the cooler out as fast as possible. It gets it so quickly, you will usually the other team is still just getting into mid when you get your cooler. Because of just how quick it paints and how few points for special it is. And I believe... Yeah, you are running a bit of special charge up as well. So I just got my cooler, you're just barely halfway. So my team already has cooler and can fight without worrying about it. And so even though you clean up... Okay, yeah, no. That's a very big thing, in my opinion, is just getting a cooler as fast as possible. And you almost never want to be dying without a cooler, especially. The big strength of VDapples is its kit. The main weapon is strong, don't get me wrong, but how much it can just get value from just spamming its kit is absurd. Decent fight. You took the fight with your team, so that's good. Oh, wow. Good one. I'm gonna go back a bit and just, like, I kind of zoned out while talking. Yeah, because my team is cooler, even if we trade out like that, we just get back faster because of my beacons. And so here... Good job of getting cooler out before fighting. I think that's always important. Very rarely do you ever want to fight without cooler on Dapples. Unless you're forced to. Again, took that fight with your team. You didn't over-aggress by yourself, so that was good. I want to look at this again. Okay, yeah, because... Okay. This is a very hard thing to notice, especially. This is something you have to, like, practice a ton. Is your teammate just died on left side? It's very hard to notice, and especially because Dapple Dualies is so fast, and I think I have cooler here? I don't actually know if I have cooler buffs here. But do you see Autumn? Autumn just died on the left side to me, right? So you should focus looking there a bit since your teammate just died over there. It's one of those things where it's like it takes a lot of time to get good at, is noticing when your team dies, especially. But yeah, you're kind of just painting mindlessly, and that gives me an opportunity, and Sam is there to follow up, but we just kind of get to go forward while you're painting. Good job getting a cooler, or fighting. I think... okay. That's a good kill. But I think you can... Once you have that cooler out, you can try to focus a bit more on, like, fighting, rather than painting behind you. I think you want to try fighting with your team more, especially, like, the Stamper. Because your Stamper wants to fight, once it has cooler. Your Stamper just wants to fight, and you're the best weapon to follow up on the Stamper's fights. That's fine, I think. That's not a bad fight to take, you're coolered. You're coolered, they're not. I like taking that fight. Unfortunate that you lost it, actually. Your team is 2 down, so you should try to back out here, probably. Good job. Okay. Focus on getting a cooler, that's good. That's... yeah. That's kind of unfortunate. That's really unfortunate. I think part of that is I don't think you have... yeah, you don't have stealth, so jumps like... oh, I went back too far. Jumps in that aren't to beacons are especially risky. I don't actually know... there was a beacon there. Okay, yeah, that's just really unlucky, actually, I think. That's just really unfortunate. This jump I don't mind, but your teammate goes down. So you kind of just are forced to back out here. You get it cooler, but they kind of... yeah, they just push in. Yeah, they broke the beacon, and then they saw your landing. There is what happened. I think, especially on... when you're trying to retake, I think jumping in with Dapples is almost never the right play on retakes. I think you just want to, like, spawn in and farm a cooler here. Like, even though you have that beacon up, it doesn't, like, get you back to the fight much faster, and you do... oh, your cooler was still on cooldown, actually. But still, you should try to just swim in, especially because I think it's too dangerous to jump in, especially on retake, because of how easy it is for you to just get shut down. Good pick. Forming a cooler here is a good play. Yeah. I think you just want to, like, give it the space there since you're so close to cooler. I think you just give the decav the space in that situation. This is something I do a lot of the time as well, is I'll be close to cooler and I'll take a fight that I shouldn't. So I don't blame you. Dapples is a really strong weapon at taking fights, but the decav has so much, like, space to back up already here, and you're close to cooler, and if you go down, your team is at a severe disadvantage for paint and just not having cooler. So I understand wanting to go for the fight, but I think you should just let the decav have the space, get a cooler, and then push with your team. Good trade. Again, I think jumping in on disadvantage is a big thing that you should try to avoid. Is one of the biggest things I'm noticing here probably, is you jump in a lot, especially when you don't have stealth jump, and I think you can just look to farm a cooler. Because now you're dead for the next 7 seconds, and your team is without a cooler. Yeah. Okay. So the big things I've noticed from this one is farming a cooler on opening is very important with Dapples. It gets it so quickly that it's like almost never there's rarely ever a time where you shouldn't do it. I do it every single game. Every single game I'm opening on VDapples, I'm painting part of our spawn for a cooler. I just get it too quickly that it's like there's no reason for me not to. Let's look at the Hagglefish game. But yeah, so cooler, paying attention to how close you are to cooler, trying to take fights, trying your best to only take fights when you do have cooler is important. And then when you have that cooler out, trying to fight, making sure you are fighting with the cooler. Because your Stamper especially is going to want to fight with that cooler. Your Stamper's going to want to fight with the cooler. The Mini's going to want to fight with the cooler, right? These are weapons that get really good value from having cooler buffs. So you're going to make sure you want to try to fight with them rather than painting after you get the cooler out. This is better. Looking to paint for cooler. The one thing I will say is don't be afraid to just, like, paint your spawn. Like, don't be afraid to just take all the paint in your spawn for a cooler. Like, if I just go to the start, like, I'm spawning, I'm painting my spawn instantly. I'm halfway to cooler already. Like, I'm getting this shit as fast as possible. My primary focus is always on getting a cooler as fast as possible, and then fighting. But yeah. Your team did a good job of holding, and you got the cooler out anyways. That was a nice kill. Damn, good shit. Going straight through zone is almost never the play, I think, on Dapple. You always want to take one of the side flanks. Echo's on the right, so that wasn't the worst idea, I guess. Hold on. I want to look at this jump in. Is that to the... No, that's just to a teammate. You do have... Okay, you do have stealth jump this game, so that's not as bad. I won't comment on that, actually. I thought you were running the same build. Nice! Nice kill. Nice job there. Yeah, no, taking this left flank on Dapples is really strong. Another thing is, because you're like halfway to cooler here, right? I think anytime you're like halfway or closer to cooler, you want to try to get it. You want to try to get it. Like, don't bother sharking if you're like halfway or closer to cooler, because just getting that cooler out for the rest of your team is so important. That's unlucky. Yeah, no. I don't have anything to say about that one. That's just unfortunate. It was very aggressive, and I don't think your team was ready to go in with you. Again, you're not at all close to a cooler here, but your mini just went down, and you kind of just go in. You go in without a cooler while our team is coolered, so even if you get a trade there, you're still at a disadvantage there. I think... Let me look at this again. Not this part, this next part. I think you want to try farming a cooler here, especially since you have the Booyah out. Fighting with the Booyah is good. Killing me there is good. I don't think you need to drop onto that forge. I think you look towards the right or towards zone. And just try to paint for your team a bit. And you were like halfway to cooler, so getting that cooler out is important. One of the, again, Like, I cannot stress how important it is to get cooler on this weapon and focus getting coolers, especially when you're close to it, because it just gets it so quickly, and it's so important for you and the rest of your team to fight with cooler. Especially on VDapple, because you don't have anything to, like, you don't have anything else in your kit to pressure the enemy team. Making sure to fight with cooler whenever possible is important. Good pick. That I won't blame you for. That was a good fight. That was a good fight. I think. Let me just make sure you know, your team is up. They unfortunately go down, but that's a good pick. Kind of unfortunate that your team goes 2 down before that, but this is good. Farming for the cooler in your spawn. Again, like, don't be afraid to just use the paint in your spawn to get a cooler. You have very limited range to get a cooler while the enemy team can pressure you, so don't be afraid to just use paint in your spawn and such for it. It was a good attempt, I think. Good fight attempt. Although, I'm gonna go back, actually. I'm gonna look at that again. Fighting with the Booyah is good. That's a good play to fight with the Booyah, especially since you had cooler out. That's good. I think you need to wait a bit. This is like a very, like, nitpicky thing here. Because I think fighting with the Booyah is good, but I think you want to wait for the Booyah to bloom a bit, so it throws off. Because it's hard, enemies can't really see through the Booyah bomb, right? So use the Booyah to smokescreen your entry a bit. It's a very nitpicky thing, but it's like one of those things where it's like, it's important, and it gets you a lot of value when you focus on doing it. Is using specials, especially like Booyah and strikes, to smokescreen your entry a bit. Because you have, like, no range. And if you get spotted while you're on your way in, you get pre-fired. I like that. That's a good play. You didn't have cooler, but your sword was fighting it and had a Booyah out, and you had a good angle. So that was a good fight. Unfortunate. I think your team just kind of died there. I'm gonna go back. Yeah. Kind of a selfish cooler, which is okay. It's okay to do selfish coolers, especially on Dapple. Because you get it pretty fast, and even though, like, it's taking away from your team a bit, sometimes you just kind of need to do it. I think I'm gonna go back a bit here, because I noticed you drop left a lot, which is something I like to do on this map especially. But if there's someone already in bottom left, I try to avoid it. If there's someone already in bottom left, you don't need to give them that attention. I think you jump out here is probably the best play. Especially since they know you're in bottom left and 2 of your team went down before then, I think you just try to jump out. Then jumping in here and fighting with the Booyah is good. I think I get chasing the bow. I would honestly... I've done the same thing before, but I think you need to go back and look at zone there. I get wanting to chase the bow, because it's always tempting to get a pick on the backliner. I'm gonna go back a bit further. Like, once you get this pick, right? I think you want to help your Stamper get the zone, because you need that zone. And because you don't get zone there, we just win. Like, you need to apply penalty to us there. At the end of the day, like, Splatoon is not a deathmatch game. it's tempting to want to go for kills when you see them, but especially in cases like that where, like, if you don't cap the zone there, we win, which is what happened. If you cap the zone there, you apply penalty and you give your team, like, more time to fight, right? You get more time, you extend the clock a bit, but since you don't cap zone there, we just win. So I think main things I'm noticing, biggest thing, which is like on start of every game, I almost always focus on getting a cooler. There's no reason not to. Using paint in your spawn isn't that big of a deal, I think. Most of the other weapons on your team can paint from decent range, so they can, like, paint for their specials without being pressured too much, right? You can't. You need that cooler, and trying to get that cooler while being pressured by the enemy team is difficult. You have P-Rex arms and cannot paint for a cooler while being pressured. Unless you are very careful about it. And you really don't want to be putting yourself in danger while painting for that cooler. This one I'm not going to look at really, because, I don't know, I've been more focusing on VDapples, right? Because I think VDapples is just broken as a cooler weapon. But yeah, so main areas of focus, I'll write this down somewhere probably, is cooler on opening, very important. Make sure to fight when you have the cooler out. There were times where you would get the cooler and then focus on painting. You don't want to do that. You want to try to avoid that. You want to try to avoid that unless you, like, need to cap the zone or something. If it's focusing objective, that's okay. If it's just painting, like, a side of the map or something, try to avoid that. Try to fight with your teammates, especially the Stamper. The Stamper's going to want to fight once the cooler's out, and you're the best one to follow up on it. Making sure to try, and then, again, trying not to fight without cooler unless you have to. Your weapon gets cooler pretty quickly, and you can generally always get a cooler out before you have to fight unless it's on cooldown. And then occasional thing is, like, trying to take off angles and sides is very important. There were a couple times where you kind of just swam in and you got spotted and pre-fired. Trying to always take the path that gives you the most cover and prevents you from being seen until, like, you're already on top of them. That's not always possible, but you want to try to look for that when you can. Taking flanks and side angles as much as possible. And then specifically for the Hammerhead game, or just in general, try not to jump in when you're on disadvantage. Focusing on getting that cooler off the respawn, especially since I believe in both games you had comeback. Focusing on getting that cooler, especially with the comeback buffs, you have special charge up. It's better to focus on the special charge up, and then you get the fighting buffs with cooler. I will write that down somewhere, all those things that I noticed. But yeah, hope this was helpful. I'm always happy to help out other Dapple players. I think the weapon's genuinely the best cooler weapon in the game right now, especially. But yeah, I'm glad you reached out. Always a joy to help other people improve at the game. But yeah, thank you.